Hi everyone, I'm Dr. D'Angelo here in my office at Willow Wellness, and this is part of my series focusing on thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Today we're focusing on thoughts. And if there were two things that I could say about thoughts, it is that they are tricky and that they are powerful. Because when we talked in here a little bit before about this continuum of control, we've talked about behaviors being at one end, with us having the most control over our behaviors, and emotions or feelings being at the other end, with us having the least amount of control over those. And thoughts fall somewhere in the middle. And not only that, they can sort of move up and down on this continuum, which makes them feel like a moving target sometimes. And from moment to moment, even, the amount of control we have over our thoughts can really fluctuate. And this is part of why sometimes thoughts can be and feel really threatening for people. But the same thing that makes thoughts tricky also makes them very powerful because of their position on this continuum between behaviors and feelings. Thoughts oftentimes wind up being the mediator between how we feel and what we do. So you can see this unfold. This is a bidirectional relationship, meaning that it goes both ways. So sometimes we do things or we're in circumstances that lead to a thought, that lead to a feeling, but then other times, that feeling can come right back around and influence our thinking, and then our thinking can influence what we do. And for this reason, because of that strong influence on both behaviors and feelings, thoughts oftentimes are the focus of interventions in psychology, especially when we're talking about CBT, both the traditional and the more mindfulness-based approach to CBT. And because of this, with a more traditional based CBT, we're talking about thought stopping, we're talking about cognitive distortions and challenging wrong ways of thinking. But when we talk about the more mindfulness based approach, we're talking about simultaneously increasing our awareness and our acceptance of our thoughts. And this gets to a phrase that we sort of throw around in mindfulness-based CBT, which is called cognitive fusion. And this has to do with the degree to which we are fused or believe that our thoughts are reality, that we believe that they are true, that they feel threatening to us and like something we must get rid of immediately. And part of the focus of mindfulness CBT is, while increasing that awareness and acceptance, we also begin to hold our thoughts more lightly. We allow them to come and to go as they please in a very similar way we do with our feelings. This also brings about sort of another term that we use in mindfulness-based CBT, which is what we call the observer self. So while we begin to hold our thoughts more lightly, become less fused with them, we become more in tune with the parts of ourselves that transcend time and space. There are pieces of us that remain constant throughout our story, that have not really changed over time, the parts of us that make us who we are. And that's what we refer to as the observer self. Now, part of what I really appreciate about mindfulness-based CBT is that it's experiential. We don't just sit here and talk and write down notes and understand about these concepts. We actually do things to help us experience them. Now, one of my favorite exercises in all of mindfulness-based CBT is called Leaves on a Stream. And it does focus on thinking. So I'm going to post that later on the blog for folks to listen to and get a feel for. And I think you'll see that both of those concepts come into play, the cognitive fusion and sort of diffusing our connection with our thoughts, helping us to hold them more lightly, and then becoming more in tune with the observer self. So I think that'll be helpful for you to check out. I hope this has been a helpful series for you so far. Just to recap, thoughts are tricky, they are powerful. We, in mindfulness-based approaches, begin to learn to hold them more lightly, or hold them more lightly, and they do fall in the middle of that continuum of control, which is what does make them so powerful and oftentimes the focus of our interventions in mindfulness-based CBT. Take care and be well.